Welcome, Hans. Appreciate your being here. Let me start with a question, which is, what the heck really is 5G? How is it different? Why is it so much better than 4G? And why does it matter for all of these folks?
It's matter a lot for all of you in this room, and it matters a lot to you. 5G is so different than any other G we've ever seen before. I mean, think about 2G to 4G. It was basically you took a 2G phone with SMS and voice, and you have today a 4G phone with great experience. If it's a Verizon phone, you can stream it. Two different capabilities, speed and throughput. Those were the only two. In 5G, it's actually 8 capabilities. We call them the 8 currencies. The 8 currencies, I give you some examples so you just understand how big difference it is. So the speed is going from, if you have a 4G phone today, 40, 60 megabits per second, to up to 10 gigabit per second for an individual device. And if you have a 5G phone in this room right now, you have 1.2 to 1.8 gigabit already because we have 5G in here. So that's the speed. Throughput is going to be terabytes per square kilometer. Today we do gigabytes per square kilometer. Latency, which is super important for the services that you are developing, we're going from maybe 40 to 80 milliseconds down to 10 milliseconds on latency in the network. And then you can combine all of this, but you also have how many devices you can connect. Today we can connect 100,000 devices per square kilometers. In 5G is 1 million. So it's much more than people, so it's devices. And you can go on with the other currencies, but I think the most important is that when you can slice these and you can give them to individuals, applications and things, you have a transformative technology that's going to transform consumer behavior, it's going to transform businesses, it's going to transform society. You need to build this in a certain way. You need fiber to basically all the radio base stations. You need high frequency spectrum. You need SDN, software defined networks. You need to virtualize the network, and you need a lot of real estate at the edge. Verizon builds all of these 8 currencies. Not everyone going to do it. We build it right, as we say, because we want to give this to all our customers. And already now we have launched 5G Home in 2018, which is a fiber-rich home broadband. We have launched a 5G mobility. We did that in April. We have now 18 cities up. We're going to have 30 by year end. And of course, we are continuing with a lot of new innovation. But this is just the start of it. So the 8 currencies is what matters for everybody in here, because that's what you can develop on. And that's the new things we're bringing with 5G.
That's pretty awesome. So people won't have to be tethered anymore to the Wi-Fi or the lower performing LTE networks?
I think that, first of all, with our spectrum position with millimeter wave, with these big frequencies, you can get enormous throughput. You can get the 10 gig, and you can do the latency of 10 milliseconds. So of course, that's why we can do it. But secondly, the connectivity and the speed is just 2 things. The other thing is, we can, with the 5G now, bring the processing out to the edge, because we have a virtualized network, and we can bring it out. We call that the mobile edge compute for 5G. That's really what we can do. And here, the innovation of consumers, low latency, immersive experience, machine loads that are heavy, all that can happen at the edge right now because of the virtualized network and the 8 currencies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you can tell that 5G is pretty compelling. And if you think about, as we've thought about what that means for our AWS customers, if you want to have the types of applications that have that last mile connectivity, but that actually do something meaningful, those applications always need some amount of compute and some amount of storage. And what they've done in the past is they've reached out to AWS to go get that compute and storage. But the problem is there are so many hops along the way. Like you have to go from the device to the cell tower to the city aggregation site to the regional aggregation site to the internet and then to AWS and then back. And the types of applications that are most excited about using 5G, these are things like machine learning at the edge or autonomous industrial equipment or smart cars or cities or augmented or virtual reality. They can't afford and don't want that round trip back and forth. And so what they really want is they want AWS to be embedded somehow at these 5G edge locations. But think about if you're a customer, what you want to do. Like you can't walk up to a telco and say, can I be at your edge? And then, because no one telco can serve the entire world geographically, you'd have to go to lots of telcos and say, can I be at your edge? And then you'd have to manage all the work between these different telcos and how they manage it with some kind of abstraction, and you'd still want all the same API tools and APIs and control planes and things of that sort. And so this has been a hard problem for people to try and solve. And about 18 months ago, Hans' team and my team started working on this and have collaborated very deeply, and excited to announce a new AWS service for you now called Aws Wavelength, which allows you to build applications that deliver single-digit millisecond latency to mobile and connected devices with AWS compute and storage embedded at the edge in 5G.
Whoa!
And so what we've done is we've embedded AWS storage and compute at the edge of 5G networks. We've started with Verizon, who was our collaboration partner and really a true innovator in this space. And now for the sensitive portions of your application where you want this single-digit millisecond latency, you have way fewer hops to actually get to the compute and storage. You go from the device to the aggregation, the city aggregation site, and then right at that 5G city aggregation site is AWS. And so it's a much better experience. You don't have to worry. We're launching, our first launch partner is Verizon. We'll also have KDDI and SK Telecom and Vodafone as part of this, and more over time. You don't have to worry about figuring out how to manage across all the different telcos. We build an abstraction that makes it easy for you. And as I said, we started with Verizon, who's often the leader and the innovator in this space, and tends to invest most in its network.
Thank you. Thank you. No, for us, this is a historic day. I mean, as I said, we were first with the 5G home. We were first with 5G mobility in the world. And of course, to be here today to talk about, we are now bringing the 5G mobile edge compute out to the edge. We call it the Verizon 5G Edge. And then with the collaboration of our engineers that has been working together for 18 months, we virtualize our network all the way from the radio to the packet core, and then bring in wavelength there in order to create a platform for all of you out there to actually start innovating on the 8 currencies. Low latencies, massive throughput, and all of that. And I think that it's just a massive moment for us at Verizon to actually do this and lead this sort of movement in the world with a lot of transformation with this new platform. We already are in preview in Chicago, so we have already customers up using this technology. So it's much more than just the buzzwords. We actually have it in preview, and we have NFL there. We have Bethesda, which is a gaming company that is using the low latency. But over time, we will be able to do slices with all these currencies together with Aws Wavelength, where we can move the loads, of course, all the way up to the higher levels of the data centers down to the wavelength. And that's the beauty, because that's going to be a game changer. And I think that everyone here should be extremely excited for it. We at Verizon are extremely excited to collaborate with the best and greatest cloud company in the world and bring this to you as innovators out there. And if you really want to see it today, you can go into our booth, because Verizon has a booth in here where you can actually start experience these 8 currencies. But as the year progresses in 2020, we're going to deploy much more real estate when it comes to edge compute together with AWS, and see that we are bringing this to all of you so you can innovate for your customers and partners. So it's a great day.
It is. In case it's not obvious, we're pretty excited about giving you this.
We are.
And we think we think it pretty dramatically changes what customers are going to be able to get done. We couldn't have chosen a better collaboration partner. It's a deep partnership. Yes. We love working with Verizon and with your team, Hans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arne. It was great. Thank you. Thank you, man.